told you this was going to be good. It's going to be happy and fun. We're going to celebrate Colin here. The next day, Shelley was in the hospital with baby Michelle when the phone rang. It was Colin. He said, I have something I want to ask you. Shelley said, okay. Will you marry me? Shelley simply said, yes. And who knew, 4 years later, another little bundle would come along. Little Eileen, also known as Boogie. We're not going to go there. And now, after all this happiness, Colin and Shelley's story bears much sadness as they enter together a dark chapter. Now you may ask, why am I going to mention this? Can't we just stick to the happy times? Well, we could easily and more comfortably do just that. However, it was Colin's wish that this unfortunate truth be mentioned at his memorial service. It was something that I already alluded to. Colin began drinking alcohol in Vietnam and continued to drink right up to the time that Shelley and he met and married. This drinking commenced throughout the first 6 years of their marriage, progressing deeper and deeper, and impacted the entire family. Finally, Shelley had enough. In 1986, she left Colin and fled south with the kids, moving down to Florida. At this point, Colin went on a bender, nearly drinking himself to death. Because he had not shown up to work, his boss called the police, and they found Colin at home, passed out on the floor, almost dead. Colin spent the next 2 weeks in a psychiatric hospital, and it was during this time 2 friends paid him a visit and shared with him the gospel. Colin accepted the Lord in his hospital bed and resolved himself to quit drinking. And he did. With God's help, Colin quit drinking for 24 years. Fast forwarding ahead in our story for a moment to May of 2006, Colin and Shelley were realizing the dream of taking a wonderful vacation together over Mother's Day week for some much needed alone time. Sadly, this Caribbean cruise would turn into another dark chapter in Colin and Shelley's life. One night, as they were enjoying a fabulous dinner aboard the cruise ship, a complimentary bottle of champagne was brought to their table. Colin and Shelley discussed it for a moment. Colin stated that after all, he hadn't had a drink in 24 years. And this was nothing more than just a little celebration. He could handle it. The cruise ended with beautiful memories and a golden tan to show off. But then things turned dark very quickly. Almost immediately, Colin resumed his drinking, even drinking openly in front of Shelley and the kids. Within 1 month, Colin's drinking had escalated to a level which had adversely affected every member of the family. Sadly, this drinking would continue up to the last 4 months of Colin's life. It would destroy his liver, and in the end, take years away from what would have been a longer life. This was Colin's greatest regret. It was the one thing he wished he could undo. Colin's dying wish was that this ugly truth about himself would become known, that it would serve as a very stark warning, especially to his kids and grandkids, that making just one very bad decision can greatly and negatively affect the rest of your life. He would tell you emphatically, stay away from alcohol. I knew Colin for 20 years, and I had no idea he had a struggle with alcohol. I too can personally attest to the damage and instability alcohol can inflict upon a family. My home was full of dysfunction and violence, largely because of having to live with an alcoholic stepmother. So I as well often share this with people. Please, please, please stay away from alcohol if you can. And certainly remain far away from it if it already is proven to be a problem in your life. Now, moving back to our story and happier times. About 6 months after the 2-week period Colin spent in the psychiatric hospital, Dylan and he drove down to Florida to pick up Shelley and the kids, to bring them back to Akron, Ohio. Shelley said she would go with Colin under one condition: only if he were to get a vasectomy. Colin readily agreed. They're on the same page on that one. I began this eulogy with the statement, who was this man, Colin Smith? And just how do we take a measure of him? Well, so far I think we've gained some insight as to who Colin was. But what measure of a man was he? I think the measurement of any man should be assessed by use of a godly yardstick. So often in life we tend as human beings to equate success by terms that the world embraces. Was this a man who achieved a certain amount of wealth? Was he popular? Did he have a powerful group of friends? Did this man own his own business? Did he invent something? Would he be recognized in a history book a few years from now? And let's face it, not all of these things I just mentioned are necessarily bad. But again, they are measurements that the world so often uses. I've known Colin for 20 years, and none of these things are true about him. So just what is Colin's truth? What is his measure? If Colin's character ever were to go on trial, he would assuredly be found guilty for this singular trait, guilty beyond any reasonable doubt of providing for his family. Colin was exceptionally generous, especially toward his children, who even as adults faced their own struggles. He made sure that his children's needs were always met. He provided a home for them, and this also included his grandchildren. He and Shelley sacrificed so much in this life to assist their kids, to help in very practical ways to meet their needs. Truly, this was their gift. Colin also wanted to donate a kidney to his brother Stephen in England, who so desperately needed it. Colin also helped his daughter Renee in her time of need, when her mother-in-law was murdered and money was needed to cover funeral costs. Colin was a man whose generosity and emotional support knew no bounds. Colin was a man who saw a woman 8 months pregnant, and all he wanted was only to marry her. If you were to ask Colin what he was most proud of regarding himself, he would say that was bringing up his kids in the ways of the Lord. It was the most important thing he ever did. He was also so very proud to be Shelley's husband, and he too was proud to serve his country in Vietnam. I also personally would like to mention Colin served right here in this church for many years, running the soundboard week in and week out, and also was a very hardworking presence at our church workdays. But even if you think you may know Colin well, there might be a few things about him which might surprise you. Did you know Colin never became a U.S. citizen? I didn't know that a week ago. He had us all fooled. A bit of a rock and roller, Colin's favorite groups were Jimi Hendrix, Pink Floyd, and The Doors. Isn't that good Vietnam music, right? Colin had a love of poetry, and his favorite poem was "Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night" by Dylan Thomas. He once made a bow and arrow with his father, never calling him Dad, for father was a term of British respect. His favorite color was royal blue. For 18 years, he shared his life with his beloved Irish setter, golden retriever mixed dog, appropriately named Pippintook. In Ohio, he shared a house with no less than 6 cats. His favorites being a blue Russian named Moose and a calico named Louise. Colin also truly enjoyed cooking, especially barbecuing. However, his favorite food in the world was his mom's beef roast, Yorkshire pudding, runner beans, and roasted potatoes. In addition, he particularly enjoyed true English fish and chips and New York-style cheesecake. Colin so loved his kids. Taking his son Dylan solo to Cleveland Indian games, along with the whole family on trips to Eagwa Lake, an amusement park located near the shore of Lake Erie. Bronwyn recalls always stopping on the way to first buy Cheerwine, a bubbly cherry-flavored pop. Colin took her on her first roller coaster ride there on the famous Double Loop. Several years later, he would walk her down the aisle at a costume wedding. Bronwyn, dressed as a princess, Colin and Shelley wearing their hippie threads. She was grateful for her father taking her to Calvary Chapel, where she found that God isn't strict or harsh. God is a loving Trinity. She was blessed with sharing Christmas together with Dylan and her sisters, basking in a strong sense of family. One final thing Bronwyn recalls. Dad had a favorite saying: "You are entitled to your own opinion as long as it's mine." After dinner, snack time was always served at 8 p.m. Dylan often would cook treats for these family evenings, perhaps baking a Boston cream pie, or just serving Grandma Shear's potato chips, to which Colin would, in proper British fashion, pour over his malt vinegar. Renee recalls the family driving all the way down from Ohio to Florida most summers to stay a week at Jensen Beach. The trip down was filled with 5 kids jammed into a car, listening to music with Shelley singing along. The kids would play the usual games like I Spy, spotting license plates, or coloring in their books. Upon arrival at the beach, the first thing Dad wanted to do was relax, have his English tea, and then go to the beach. Renee also loved her dad's corny sense of British humor. Colin loved to play a little game with Michelle, also known as Pootie Butt. Did I mention that already? Because we're pairing a second time with me. When she wanted something from him, this is really cool. She would write little notes on paper airplanes. Then she would float them down to the basement when she knew that he was in there. She definitely knew how to work the system. Colin would bring home computer paper from work, you know, that perforated prayer paper. She'd bring that home so Michelle could play act as a teacher. He would take Eileen on buddy dates, which would begin with grocery shopping, then going to Burger King for lunch, and buying her a box of chiclets. Many years later, Dad was there during Eileen's labor with Jordan. You hear him? He's singing out there. Hey, Jordan, buddy, we're talking about you. Colin was the very presence who calmed her down when everybody else was driving her crazy. She and Dad also enjoyed gardening together, planting vegetables and flowers. Colin loved to not take just Dylan, but all the kids to the Cleveland Indians games. On Christmas mornings, Colin would make his anxious children wait at the top of the stairs while he first prepared his English tea, Peachy Tibbs, if you were wondering the brand, slowly drinking it in his ugly green chair. And then, only after the tea was consumed would he shout, "Okay." The kids would fly down the stairs to tear into their pile of gifts. On one particular Christmas, Dylan was shocked to receive a beautiful 10-speed bike. Colin's favorite passage in the Bible was Psalm 23, known by many as the Shepherd's Psalm. And most importantly, his favorite car was a metallic green 1970 Roadrunner muscle car. Colin was so proud to be Shelley's husband, so proud of her monumental achievement of becoming a nurse. His pet name for Shelley was Shelley Bear. Shelley would respond back with an affectionate Colin Bear. On a personal note, Colin and I shared a special friendship. I was so very honored to be asked to serve as his best man to Shelley in his 24th wedding anniversary, where they renewed their vows in this very church. Another wonderful surprise was when Colin and Shelley returned home from England, presenting me with a bakery surprise. An English tennis spotted dick. No, I actually had no idea what spotted dick was, nor did I blood pudding. But all I can tell you is it was wonderful. It appeared to me to, in taste and texture, be very close to pound cake. Yes, Colin and I seem to share so much in common. We both love to discuss anything and everything related to World War II, especially aircraft, and of course, the total studliness of Sir Winston Churchill, the man who single-handedly bolstered the morale of a hurting island nation bombed out during the Blitz. I love listening to Colin describe in surreal detail the sight of bomb craters and blown apart buildings which bore the wrath of the German war machine, serving as sad, evident reminders of a country who survived a long and brutal war. I asked him, what was it like? Was it so very adventurous for a boy still in short pants? To witness such a spectacle? His reply, oh yes. I could only imagine it in my mind. When Colin saw it, he experienced it. I always respected Colin's perspective on anything political. And again, we were very much in agreement, both leaning toward conservative, godly values in our beliefs. I love to extol upon Colin my sincere admiration of the British people, a nation having endured so much suffering during World War II, and yet stoically rising to the occasion, fighting back against such an evil tide, a feat which only a tough and resilient people could bring to task. Colin and Shelley were such welcome guests in our home, attending Christmas parties, sharing at our dinner table. Their conversation and perspective added so much to our joy and our celebration. As a church greeter, I always look forward each week to the moment when Colin and Shelley would cross our doorstep. With much anticipation, I would anxiously try out some British term or phrase on them. The conversation would go something like this. Oh, I say, governor. To which Colin would reply, hello. I would then remark on the cut and the line of this garment and how obvious it was to all that he only shopped at the finest haberdasheries found on the left bank. Colin would reply, "Right." I'd then say, "I'm feeling a bit famished today, Gov. There was nothing at all to be found in the larder." He'd say, "Oh, I'm feeling a bit knackered." We'd then make some other small talk, and then I would abruptly say, "Well, I should go into service. Off you go, Bob's your uncle, find your auntie." Which, of course, when one is to say I should do this or that, was actually the British way of communicating to the person you were speaking to that it was they who should go in and not you. All of this acquired knowledge of British phraseology on my part was gleaned from careful and astute screenings of multiple episodes of Foyle's War, and then stashed away in my memory to be recalled for our next meeting. Colin was to me a man of great faith. He was a man who clung to God no matter what trial or difficulty life threw at him. The Bible tells us that our faith is the most precious gift we can give to God. More precious even than that of gold. Colin possessed a good measure of this gift. It was stretched and strengthened throughout his lifetime. I know that one day soon, in the not too distant future, many of us here who are presently in our twilight years, we will join Colin in eternity. I can imagine sitting with him, talking about our favorite subjects, our love of aviation, books, history, and God. Until then, Colin, we will miss you. We will reflect upon you often. Till we meet again, know this, Gov. Everything down here, well, it's just tickety-boo.